Hi folks, Sky North here, out here at base camp. As you can see, I'm still using the Pants camp chair. Who would have thunk? I love this thing. It's so comfortable. And I can adjust it to whatever I want. Earlier I had it leaning way back. I almost fell asleep in it. I'm out here just taking it easy this evening. You see me moving around a lot. It's to keep the skeeters moving because it's that time of year and the skeeters come out this time of the evening. And of course they look for me right away. I'm so sweet. They want that blood, you know. What I'm going to do this evening is just to get kind of ahead of things. I'm going to, I think I'm going to do 3 sty stories. And I hear voices off in the distance. But I'm going to do 3 sty stories and 3 separate ones. But I'm not going to post them all together. I'm going to spread them out over a week or 2. And I was just wondering, I heard the voices, I'm wondering if they're coming in to base camp, but I don't think they are. So anyway, I'm going to jump into the first sty story and look forward to the other ones. The first one I'm going to call Don't Badger the Company. Now this is kind of an unusual story. It's an animal-related story, an animal encounter. And here's how it goes. Well, years ago, my mother belonged to this particular church, and this church liked to do things for youth. And they would recruit me to help them out, do different youth things. And they were approached by an individual that had inherited a large piece of property in northern Minnesota. Quite large piece of property, in fact, 240 acres. And it had an old homestead on it, very old homestead. And he wanted to donate it to the church so they could build a youth camp. Well, the pastor of that church approached me and said, would you ride with me up to this property and look at the property with me? And I said, well, sure, I'd like to. So he said, well, there's one other person coming with us. It's a pastor from a different church that's going to be riding with us. And I really didn't care. I just wanted to go up there because it sounded like we were going to be hiking around on that property. And this was supposed to be very remote property. Well, we found out it was. I mean, we went up in that preacher's station wagon, and that station wagon had to act like a 4-wheel drive to get us in there. We drove through about, half a mile of woods, weaving back and forth and up and down, and just a rough little 2-rut trail. Then we come to the top of this ravine, and you're looking down that ravine through the woods. Excuse me. And there's a creek running through. Rather quick creek also. Well, that pastor, he was kind of a wild character. He said, hang on, guys, we can get across that. And he took off down that hill. We hit that creek, and oh my gosh. Thank goodness the creek bottom was solid, because that water was deeper than it looked like from on top of that hill. We hit that water, it come right up over the hood. We made it out. We got on the other side, and we're up that hill and through the woods, and then all of a sudden we pop into this, about a 10-acre clearing. And at the end, way far on one side, stood this big 2-story Victorian-style farmhouse. And you can tell there used to be a barn or two that had fallen down over the years. And so he drove through that big meadow over to that house. We got to that house, and you could tell the house was really in disrepair. Nobody had lived in it for who knows how long. And the house was turn of the century. It was probably built in late 1850s, 1860s. So the owner had said, come on out and I'll meet you at that house. Well, we got there and there's a pickup truck parked there. But he's nowhere around. None of us had the guts to go up and knock on the door. This place was kind of scary, you know. And I looked off in the distance. All of a sudden I see this fella come out of the woods. And he's all the way across that meadow. And he's walking across that meadow. And he didn't know it was us. That pastor should have told him what kind of car we were driving so that he'd at least see the car and know it was us. Well, he didn't like strangers on his property. All of a sudden he stops and we see him. He raises a rifle up and we thought, oh my gosh, is he going to shoot at us? Well, sure enough, he squeezed off a shot and there was a license plate nailed to this power pole that was there. And oddly enough, they at one time I guess it was in the 1940s, they ran power all the way in there to that farm. So there were overhead power lines at one time. But he hit that license plate on that power pole, and he was out there probably 350 yards. I thought, okay, he just told us, stay put, wait for him to come in because he can hit us with that rifle. He's good. Well, he got in there and he got pretty close to us, and then he yelled, who are you? And that pastor yelled to him, it's me, Terry, and then he recognized who he was, and he said, oh, okay, and he comes in. Well, he tells us to come in the house. Now, this is where the don't badger the company comes in, not the shooting of that license plate and scaring us half to death. We get in that house, and here what he does is he uses just the kitchen. He's got it kind of closed off, the rest of the house, and he uses just the kitchen. And we were there in the fall of the year, and it was chilly outside. And he's got a cot in the kitchen and a little table. And he's got a big Sears Charm wood cook stove in there. And that's what he's heating that kitchen with when he's on the property. And I guess he goes up there and spends a lot of time on that property. Well, we're sitting at the table. And he said, now if Charlie shows up, don't panic, just sit and be quiet and everything will be fine. And we thought, well, who in the world's Charlie? Excuse me. It wasn't 10 minutes later. All of a sudden I hear this noise. It's coming from that wood stove. And I turned and I looked under that wood stove. Well, the one pastor's got his back to the wood stove. The other one's sitting on the other side of the table. And the fellow we're talking to is sitting up to my right. And he's facing the wood stove. I looked around at one pastor at that wood stove trying to figure out what's all that noise at that wood stove. All of a sudden, out from under that wood stove comes the biggest doggone badger I ever seen. He was about that long, and he was about that wide, and he stood about that high. He was big, big, big thing. And he's all teeth. He comes out of there just growling. That pastor sat there, and he never moved his head or anything. All he said was, I don't know what that is, but I think I just peed myself. I couldn't help but start laughing, even though that badger's sitting there. I couldn't help but laugh. Well, that badger looked at me like that's nothing to laugh about, and he starts growling at me, and he's coming my way. And the owner of the property said, just sit there, don't do nothing. Don't do nothing. Don't say nothing, don't do nothing. He says, just let him come over and check you out. Well, that big badger come over, and he comes up to my left foot, my left leg, and he sniffs my leg from all the way from my knee down to my foot, and he's checking me out. Then he turns and he does the same thing to the other two guys, and he walks back and he goes under the stove. And you can hear him under there grumbling and growling. The owner said that 2 years prior, he came out there deer hunting one season, and he spent about 3 weeks out there. And he said all of a sudden one evening he was fixing dinner, and that badger came out from under that stove. And he said he didn't know what to do. He says the thing was ornery, but he said it's like it wasn't trying to chase him off. It was just kind of telling him that, I'll share the house with you. And he said he fed the thing. And all of a sudden those two started building a relationship, him and Charlie. And here for 2 years, him and Charlie were sharing that house. He didn't bother Charlie, and Charlie didn't bother him. And he failed to tell us what Charlie was, let alone who Charlie was. When we left that property, the three of us didn't remember a single thing that man had said. We didn't remember a single thing about that property. We took a big long hike on the property. We didn't remember a single thing. All we remembered was Charlie coming out from under that stove. And that's when we decided, you shouldn't badger your company. Well, that's Stein Norris with the Stein story for you. Okay, keep your eyes out for the other ones. I'll do a couple more, and we'll get them up on the YouTube channel within the next week or two after this one. From all of us out here, myself, Jim, Big Jim, and Rory, we want to wish you all a nice day. Love to see you out here. And this is Stein North saying, later, folks. Bye-bye.